In the various religious systems of the world, there are many types of meditations. I'm sure you're all aware of it. And within Buddhism, all kinds of meditations are divided into two categories. And that's what we'll talk about. And the first group is called samatha. That's the Sanskrit word, samatha. And the meaning of the word is not so difficult to understand in English, because the sama is very close to the word same in English, and the mind remaining the same. And tha is a shortening for stha, which is close to the English word stay. So the mind stays the same. So, and there are many kinds of meditation related to this category. Basically, any meditation that focuses on something, anything, and becomes more and more absorbed, deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, is samatha. And in the Indian subcontinent, there were, from ancient time, from the time of the Buddha and even earlier, there were many types of samatha meditations. For example, nowadays, very popular amongst the Hindu swamis is like listening to the inner sound, or just repeating Om, 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 these kind of things. Or sometimes if you press your eyeballs, then you have light here, then you focus your mind on the light and meditate on it. What these kind of meditation, if you understand the principle, the mind focuses on something. Does not matter what it focuses on. It could be the statue of the Buddha, it could be the cross of the Christ. The mind is focused on it, and you keep, and it wanders off, you bring it back. It wanders off, you bring it back. It wanders off, over and over. Then the mind begins to remain in that object for longer and longer period. That's what is meant by the same. It's the same object in a longer and longer period. And then there are, in other systems like Sufism, they have, for example, Allah, or repeating the word of Allah, or whatever, Allah, illallah, whatever, over and over again. This is related to mantra systems, which is found in Buddhism and Hinduism as well. But it's the same thing. When you repeat a mantra over and over again, the mind just keeps on focusing on the mantra over and over again, and gradually all outer things, all extraneous things are kind of waved away, and the mind is just still and quiet and just focused on this object. And any meditation that does this kind of thing, no matter what the object is samatha. That within Buddhism, of course, there's a very elaborate, detailed steps of this kind of meditation, and like especially in the Mahayana systems, which includes Vajrayana, there are 9 stages of the mind in absorption of the object. And after the 9th stage, you enter into what is called samadhi or dhyana. So that's like till the 9th stage, thoughts and different things can still come, and the mind can still waver off. But to the degree you go up towards the 9 stages, the mind becomes more and more absorbed, and the object comes closer and closer until the mind and the object kind of becomes one. Then there is experience of what is called, how do you put it in English, bliss. Bliss begins to arise in that absorption, and the bliss reaches a certain peak and then comes down, and then the mind is extremely quiet. And every time he or she looks at the object and meditates on it, the mind reaches that spot immediately. within a few seconds. And that is called samadhi. Again, sama is the same. Dhi is conceptual thinking, mind, intellectual thinking. This becomes completely absorbed in the object. So there is no conceptualization anymore. There is just the object, only the object. And as you can see, if you understand the principle, hundreds of different objects can be used for that purpose. Any object can be used. You can use a piece of wood and meditate on it, and you can achieve that. The mind becomes extremely quiet, but then in the Buddhist system, that is considered as only what is called the first samadhi, or the first dhyana. Then you practice controlling it. Controlling it means, like, this is unique to Buddhism. In other systems like Hinduism and so on, there is no controlling, as far as I know. I may be wrong, maybe with Sufism or others, but I know with Hinduism there is no such thing as controlling, practicing controlling it, bringing it under your control. What control means is I make an aspiration to remain 5 minutes in the samadhi of the object, then I go, and then in 5 minutes my eyes open automatically. 10 minutes, 1 hour, 5 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, So then I go into it, I remain 24 hours, and at the end of 24 hours, my eyes just open automatically. That's called bringing it under control. Once it is brought under control, then you try to achieve the second level, dhyana or samadhi. And then there's the third level dhyana and the fourth level dhyana. So if you achieve fourth level dhyana, you can spend the whole night in samadhi. Your body will be more relaxed and more rejuvenated than in sleeping, normal sleeping, because it's way deeper than normal deep sleep. Or in modern language, there's more delta waves coming, from the brain. Throughout the 6 hours or 7 hours, you remain in samadhi. So this varies only in what object is used. So as I said, in the present day Indian subcontinent, many Hindu swamis teach listening to the inner sound inside here. So if you close your eyes and listen, you can hear a kind of humming going on there. The mind is absorbed in it. Then it changes, and the humming becomes like a bumblebee, and then like a thunderclap, and so on. And your mind gets more and more absorbed in it. Or a light here, then you keep your mind in it and keep it focused. And there are many others besides this, of course. In the Buddhist context, there are 12 main objects of meditation. And they are the 4 colors: red, blue, green, not green, red, blue, white, and yellow. So the disc is made the span of one and 4 fingers span. One, what do you call this in English?
One hand.
Huh?
One hand, one palm.
One hand or one palm and 4 fingers. That's the diameter. You make a circle of, let's say for example, yellow disc. Then you keep it out there, and then you look at it, yellow, yellow. You try to bring it in here, yellow, 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 yellow. But in the beginning, it doesn't come. Or even if it comes, it remains for a fraction of a second, goes off, and then finally the yellow disc comes very clearly imprinted. Every time you say yellow and close your eyes, you can see the disc exactly as it is down there. And then you leave that disc and use the disc in your mind. Then you climb up. That is the first stage, the first mental stage. Then that lasts maybe 20 seconds, 10 seconds before some other thoughts come, and you miss it. Then you come back again, do it again. Come back again, do it again. Normally, technically, you do it, you keep on doing it until 3 thoughts come. What is called 3 thoughts come, meaning the mind leaves the disc. Then you open your eyes and relax and look around, and then go back to the disc again. You know? And 3 thoughts come, you open your eyes again, and then gradually from 10, 15 seconds, it starts extending to 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and so on. And by the time you reach the 8th stage, then it's like a free bus ride. You know, you close your eyes, you're in it, and it just flows, keeps on flowing. And then you reach the 9th stage, that's when the bliss begins to arise. You know, and sometimes for many people the bliss is so strong that they come out of it. You know, but you just keep on doing it until the bliss reaches a kind of height, a peak, and then kind of comes down. And then everything is very quiet. The mind is extremely quiet and very blissful, relaxed bliss. The former bliss is like intense bliss. This is like a quiet, blissful state. You know, like watching a sunset or something like that. So like that. So that is the first dhyana, or the first samadhi. The word samadhi is more popular. First dhyana. Then you go to the second dhyana, which is deeper than that. Then the third dhyana. Then the fourth dhyana. So any object can be used, and religious systems all over the world have used it. You know, but to the degree of reaching the fourth dhyana is found only within Buddhism. You know. And sometimes you find in texts in Hindu babas and sadhus and swamis may have reached certain stage, but it's not categorized so well, because they do not have texts that categorizes each step. So that is samatha. And the purpose of this is to be able to focus the mind on something for long enough period. You know. So with practicing samatha, you have the capacity to keep your mind focused completely on a particular thing for as long as you wish. And then the second, and this, as I said, is found in all religious systems, so it's not unique to Buddhism, except within Buddhism they have categorized it very well, which is not, I have not found it so well categorized and systematized in any other system. You know. And then the second type of meditation is called vipassana. You might have already heard the word. The meaning, it comes from V comes from the two Sanskrit words visheshena and vividena. Visheshen means special, and vividena means holistic. You know. And pashyana means see. So vipassana is seeing, special seeing, or seeing holistically. And what this means is that you're able to see how your body really is. You're able to really see how your sensations are, you know, how they really exist. Not the way we believe they exist, you know, but the way they really exist. I mean, we believe, for example, that this body, I was once upon a time 5 years old, right? So then I was 20 years old, 30, now I'm 68, you know. But somehow I have the feeling it's the same me, you know. The 5-year-old me is the same. Well, everybody knows that the body has changed completely, right? But still, we don't get that in here. We somehow think it's the same me, it's the same body, it's the same senses, it's the same mind, you know, all these things. So, and the world out there, again, we know intellectually that it changes, but somehow it's the same classroom, it's the same house, it's the same Sheffield college, you know, and so on. It's stuck in here, it's a part of our conditioning. We are conditioned to see things like that, you know, and so we don't see things as they really are. And even modern quantum physics says the same thing. I mean, there is no world out there the way you experience it. You know, your mind creates them. There are only energy patterns, and the mind creates them. So, how does this body really exist? How do what I call I really exist? You know, how does the world out there really exist? You know, we've never experienced it. We've only experienced it through the colored glasses of our conditioned thinking. You know, we have Like, for example, as humans, we grew up with language. That's the difference between animal and humans, right? And we have an elaborate language structure, English or Hindi or Nepali or whatever language structure, but we don't realize that as we grew up learning these languages, this language structures the way we experience the world, structures the way we see the world out there. For example, I say, I see you. Now, that language structure implies automatically that there's an I here and there's a you out there, and there's a seeing process going on. And we never question it. Is that how really it is? For example, I make this sound, you say, I hear the sound. Then the language implies that there is an I separate from the sound, and I'm hearing that sound. But we never question that. Is that really how it is? For example, in English language and most of the world's languages, we have past tense, present tense, future tense. So I ran is past tense, I am running is present tense, I will run is future tense, right? But in the Hopi Red Indian language, the present tense is I am running, just like in English or any other language. But past tense is I am running in my mind. If you translate it directly, it becomes I'm running in my mind. And that's what past tense is. There is no past tense out there anywhere, actually. So language structures what we see, what we are capable of seeing, what we are not capable of seeing, and so on. And we forget this. And the way you are conditioned, the way you have been experiencing the world, conditions the way you'll continue to experience it the same way. For example, when Captain Cook landed in Australia, the Aborigines didn't see his big ship at all. I mean, we can't believe it. I mean, this huge ship that crossed the Indian Ocean and went to Australia. I mean, how is it possible people don't see it? But the Aborigines did see it. It was right in front of them because they didn't have this conditioning here to see such huge ship. They probably saw canoes, small canoes, and so on. And this is how strong our conditioning is. We fail to see things that are really there, and we don't see, and we see things that aren't there, aren't really there. So, and language is one of the things that conditions us. The type of language you grew up in, conditions the way you think, you experience things out there. And so that's not the way the things really are out there. So how are things really out there? How do they really exist? I believe this is real. I never question it. This is what's it called, Thomas or whatever. Okay, Thomas. So, and I believe it's real. And I believe it really exists. And I believe I really exist. And there's an interaction between me and that. But I never question, do I really exist? Or maybe in another way, how do I exist? What is the mode of existence? What is my mode of existence? What is the mode of existence of this thing? And to be able to see through all our conditioning and see things as they really are, is the meditation called vipassana. Through vipassana, you see how the world really exists out there, how I really exist in here. And that takes time. It's not as easy as, well, quietening the mind isn't easy, but vipassana is more difficult because you have to cut through the gross, conditioned crap you have here, and see directly at the world that exists out there. Every word we use is based on our conditioning. We say the world exists out there, without really understanding what do I mean by exists, without really understanding what do I mean by I. And so vipassana is related to gradually cutting through that and seeing the way things really exist. In the beginning, there is an I and the world out there. That's the way we experience things, right? So how does this I really exist? And how does the world out there really exist? And that's vipassana. There are many types of vipassana too. That is the unique contribution to the world of the Buddha. Only Buddha taught vipassana. Nobody else taught vipassana. The meditation, samatha types of meditation are taught all over the world. Even shamans, when they take their drums and bang, then the mind gets into a trance. That's samatha. But vipassana is what the Buddha gave to the world. And what is the use of vipassana is because we become free only from vipassana. Free meaning free from our conditioned ideas, free from our conditioned reactions, free from our conditioned life. We become free from it only through vipassana. Some other type of meditations don't free you. They quieten your mind to a high degree, to whatever high degree you are able to achieve, but the conditionings are still there latent in the mind. And when you come out of it, you're back to square one, wherever you were. I mean, you still continue to see the world the way you always saw it. You still continue to see yourself the way you always see yourself. And to Buddhism, the belief, the kind of a subconscious belief that I am real, I exist. Now again, I'm using words like I am real, and these are probably completely new to many of you. I don't know what your backgrounds are, right? So, and real has to be defined first before you understand what you mean by real, right? I mean, it's not just the words real. So, but I do believe that I am unchanging. I'm the same person that was there when I was 5 years old, when I was 20 years old, when I was 40 years old, and now when I'm 68 years old. It's the same me, same I. And I don't question it, because the word I is the same, right? The word I hasn't changed since I was 5 years old. At 5 years old, I said, I am so-and-so. At the age of 20, I say, I am so-and-so. At the age of 68, I say, I am so-and-so. So the word I gives the illusion it's exactly the same thing, unchanged. And that's what you all feel, don't you? Right? It's the same me, same John, right? Unchanged. But if you sit for meditation and try to find such an unchanging John, you won't be able to find it. That's the big problem. You won't find it. And if you keep on repeating that meditation again and again, then your hold onto the concept of an unchanging I begins to loosen. Then you let go. Now, to Buddhism, this I, unchanging I, that's the real meaning of real here. Unchanging. It's the same in the past, exactly the same in the present, exactly the same in the future. Is the root of all our suffering. Now, I am real, and this object here is real. So I want it. That's greed. That she may want it. That I get angry with her. Anger. Greed, anger, hatred, all these things arise from that group, that system where I am real and the world out there is real. And that's where suffering begins. And as long as I have greed, anger, hatred, fear, and I suffer. Consciously and unconsciously, I will continue to suffer. And of course, as humans, we all want to be happy, we all want to be free from suffering, we all want to live joyously, fully life. But because of these conditioned reactions we have within us, and in modern psychology, since birth, in Buddhism, since many lifetimes, we have this. So I'm incapable of being happy. Normally, what people call happiness is like if I pinch you, then you say, ouch, 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 then I let go, and then, and then I pinch you again, then the gap between the two pain is what we call happiness, But that's not real happiness. Real happiness is not the gap between two pain. But our happiness, I get tired, exhausted, so I go to the bar and drink beer, and nice. But that's a gap between two pain. It's not real happiness. And real happiness can come, real joy, happiness, fulfillment, or whatever name you like it can come, only when you are free from your conditioned reactions. And especially when categorized exactly anger, hatred, fear, all these things, greed, only when you're free from it, or to the degree you are free from it. To be completely free is a huge project. But you can become free to degrees. And to the degree you become free, the degree you begin to see life as enjoyable, life as fulfilling and fullness. And so the whole circle begins, the whole game begins from this belief down inside here that I am real, John, Mary, whoever, I'm real. I really am Mary. I really am John. I really exist. Now that doesn't mean Buddhism is saying you don't exist at all. No. What we are talking about is this idea of an unchanging John, the idea of an unchanging Mary. Is what is meant here. That's what is meant by real John, really existing John. Right? And that begins the whole process. That I'm real, this is real, I want this, greed. She wants it, then I get angry at her, and so on. The process begins. So how do you get out of this circle? By saying that this isn't really real the way I see it, the way I perceive it, the way I think it is. And I am not really real the way I believe I am. Once you begin to see it, not just conceptualize it, not just think about it. That's why in Zen Buddhism they always say, if you think, then you are already wrong. You don't think, you see directly. And that's vipassana. B means vishesh, B means special, pasana means seeing. And all forms of Buddhism have vipassana, of one form with the other. And if the system does not have vipassana meditation, it is not a Buddhist system. And according to Buddhism, without vipassana, you cannot free yourself. You can only quieten your mind to a certain extent, and so you feel peaceful and nice. If you do any kind of meditation, you will feel peaceful and nice, and relaxed. But deep down in your subconscious mind, the tendency to see things as real, the tendency to get angry, whatever, the greed and so on, are always there. And whenever causes and conditions arise, they come out. There's a story of an ancient 6th century Buddhist master of India, when he told his wife, can you make me carrot pudding? Then he went into meditation, 12 hours, and came down. The moment he came down, he asked his wife, where's my carrot pudding? And his wife said, what kind of meditation have you been doing for 12 hours? You haven't forgotten your carrot pudding. carrot pudding. And then he asked her, what do I do? And then she taught him vipassana. So he was doing samatha, quiet and 12 hours, complete samadhi, blissful, nice, But when he comes down, everything else comes down with him, and he's back to square one, exactly as he is. So that is vipassana. And these are the two major types of practices. Then within Buddhism, you combine both of them, samatha and vipassana. So combining the Shantideva, also 6th century, the master who wrote what is called the Bodhicharya Avatara, the entering the path of the Bodhisattva. Entering the path of the Bodhisattva has written that by practicing samatha and vipassana together, you become free from your emotional defilement. See, like when we speak in English, sometimes we have a problem with presenting Buddhist concepts. Also, I'm sure the Hindus feel the same way, because there are no technical words. I use the word emotional defilement. That's how they translate it in English. In Sanskrit, it is klesha, and klesha means suffering. Klesha, when I have anger, hatred, fear, greed, attachment, desire, these are all sources of my suffering. And they create suffering for me. Even when I don't think I'm suffering, I'm stressed out. I don't relax completely. I don't feel joyous, and I don't feel every moment is wonderful and marvelous, because we have a lot of klesh, emotional defilement within us. The word emotional defilement does not bring the connotation of suffering. Klesha means suffering. And so anger, hatred, fear are called klesha. And because of these klesha, I do not live life fully. I get bored. That's another klesha, another klesha. And what do we do? As humans, how do we deal with this? I mean, as humans, whether you're British or American or Nepali or Indian, we're just humans. We still have this klesha, and we still have to deal with it, right? And and existence, by its very nature, has suffering implied within it. For example, we're all sitting like this. We don't need to do anything else. After maybe half an hour, depending on how used to you are sitting, your bum starts aching, right? You don't have to do anything else. Then how do we deal with it? I shift, and move off. I escape from it. For a while, it's a temporary solution. The aching stops, right? But the new position, after another half an hour, starts aching again, and I escape from it. If you look at it, an average human being lives his own whole life escaping from the sufferings, and that's just a temporary release from pain, suffer. The example I gave you, just a temporary release from suffering. And we never deal with what is the root cause of this suffering, and how do I face it, and how do I deal with it? And that's what Buddhism is about. Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths, maybe all of you have read about it. The first truth is the truth of suffering. Some people say, especially in the West, that Buddha was pessimistic, but he wasn't pessimistic. If you are a doctor and your patient has cancer, you don't beat around the bush. You have to tell him you have cancer, you need chemotherapy, right? So the fact that we all suffer, but we try to escape from it, always escape from it. Rather than dealing with it, we try to escape from it, run away from it. And temporarily, we manage to feel released for a short while, But that's not the solution. The solution is that you need to recognize that there is suffering, and that's a whole field by itself. Many people don't even realize they are suffering, until it's too late. Until it becomes a big, huge problem, because even the American Medical Association says that all diseases are rooted in stress. So we are stressed out, and by the time you are 60 or 70, then you have cancer or ulcer, all these kind of things. It's too late. So dealing with the fact that there is suffering and understanding it is the first truth. It's not a pessimistic thing. It's a systematic way of dealing with it. Then the second is, there is the root to this. It has its root. So you need to find out the root of this suffering. And the third is that the positive message that this can be uprooted. this can be uprooted. And the fourth is the way, the path. So the path is basically in Buddhism the combination of samatha and vipassana. It's samatha and vipassana. Combined together is the path. But of course, these are very simple words. The path is very huge. There are many, many, many aspects of the path you need to understand before you can start on the path. The samatha and vipassana are just two words, and don't tell you much about the path. So that is samatha and vipassana. Then within Buddhism, there are various systems. There are 4 basic highways, paths, talking about path. The first is what is called the way of renunciation. And the basic idea behind it is that if you renounce everything related to greed, anger, hatred, fear, this kind of thing, then